Yo, what's up, dogs? I went and saw Dream Scenario like a week before I got sick. And I went to the Art House Theater downtown. It's a single screen theater, really comfortable chairs. It's just your standard definition, no IMAX going on in this theater at all, you know what I'm saying? So it's a perfect little theater. I love it so much. I love going there and watching films there all the time. And the turnout for this movie was a lot of people. Like, we're talking like packed house, you know what I'm saying? 70 plus people were there. Made for a really good movie experience, you know. And I dragged my friend in from Brantford. I was like, hey, let's go watch this movie together. It's going to be a good one, you know. It's got Nicolas Cage in it. You know, I just like sold him on it. And I'm like, it's going to be good. And he really enjoyed this film, by the way. He laughed a lot. I laughed a lot. It runs for an hour and 45 minutes or so. And I honestly think this movie has a natural ending spot, and it pushes a little beyond it. And I kind of was like, do we need to go beyond this point? You know what I'm saying? And I will bring that up very soon. Yeah, so I got some concessions when I was down there because I like supporting the theater, especially that one, you know, because it's an art house theater. They don't get tons and tons of money. So whenever I go down to there, I'm always trying to give them a little extra money. And also, I have a membership there too, just so you know. Like, I'm hooking that place up. I like going there a lot. It's probably one of my favorite theaters in town, to be perfectly honest with you, because they play all the weird stuff, and I like going there to watch those weird things, you know? So with that being said, let's just jump right into my review synopsis. I got a clipboard for Christmas. I finally found one because, like, I always take notes. You guys know I have notes. I always seem to put my notes away. So now I made sure I got a clipboard. We need some stickers or decals on the back here. But now I have my clipboard so I can actually take notes and, read my notes now. Even better. So, welcome to a new addition to the review. My notes is on now, a clipboard. So, let's get into the movie here. I'm ready to talk about this film as quickly as possible. You know it's not happening. So, here we go. This movie is an R-rated film, and it's listed as a horror comedy, but I would really like lean more on dark comedy instead of just your traditional comedy. And the horror elements in this is like, I would say there is some spooky stuff in here, especially when you go through some of the dream sequences, which people in my audience were quite vocal about being like creeped out about the dreams that were happening. And I thought that was really cool, like just a good theater experience. And there is some horror elements when it comes to that, but I wouldn't say anything too gory or too gruesome or anything like that. It's like, I wouldn't say light-hearted horror, but there is a certain tension to the dreams that is kind of interesting, actually. And it's just dreams, you know what I'm saying? The movie is an A24 flick, you know what I'm saying? The budget, I could not find the budget for this film anywhere. So I don't know how much it would cost. Let's just say it costs like $10 million. I don't know. It's probably low, but couldn't find the budget. And for the box office side of things, we have a domestic total of $5.4 million and an international total of $1.1 million, worldwide total of $6.5 million. And honestly, without knowing the budget, I guess it's a flop. But the movie's a limited run, right? Like, it's a small release window. It only had a certain amount of theaters. So, like, is it a bomb? Like, I don't understand the play that A24 was trying to go with this, other than just, like, maybe some Oscar buzz for Nick Cage. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But maybe they made their money back. We don't know if there's no budget, right? So, I don't know. The critic side of things, we have... it was on Rotten Tomatoes for 91% fresh, certified. The audience is at 68%. The Metacritic is a 74 out of 100 with the 7.2 audience. There was no cinema score out there. I couldn't find one. And my personal letterbox score for this film is at a 4 point nothing out of 5. I was going to do 0.5, but no, it's a solid 4 out of 5 film for me, for sure. The director is Kristoffer Borgli. I hope I pronounced that correctly. This is the first time I've ever seen any movie by him, and I have to say that I really enjoyed what he put on the screen. For whatever the budget was, it was really well done. And I believe this movie was filmed in around Toronto as well, because there was a couple spots where I'm like, I know that place. You know what I'm saying? I've been there. I've been in that bar, or I've been in that building. So definitely it's filmed in and around Toronto. So I still think this movie is probably made for $10 million. Anyways, let's get into the story here, because the story is, and this is where we're going to get the spoiler reviews, just so you guys know, it's happening. So the story is very straightforward, and it's actually a lot of fun. We have this character named Paul Matthews, who's played by Nicolas Cage. And Paul Matthews is, how can we describe him? He's kind of like a forgettable person. Like, no one really cares about him as outside of his family. He, I think, rubs people the wrong way because he's an intellect, and I think that his approach with his intellect comes off very brash, and so he doesn't have a lot of friends in academia or in life, right? Like, he's just like, people know him, they put up with him, but they don't like him. They don't like him around, and he just comes off as that guy that's like, you know he's a good person and he has good intentions, but you don't really want to hang out with him, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something about him that just rubs you the wrong way, and it could be his demeanor, or like mostly comes down to probably his demeanor and how he acts around people, because he's got this weird awkwardness to him, and he has I would say that he lacks certain confidence when he's out in the real world, like when he's not around his family, right? Because he comes from a pretty loving family, I would say. He has 2 daughters, Sophie Matthews, who's played by Lily Bird, and Hannah Matthews, who's played by Jessica Clement. And he has a wife who's Janet Matthews, played by Julianne Nicholson, right? And that's his little family unit, And like I said, he's a teacher. He is a biology professor. I believe it's an evolution biology professor. And so he has his faculty and his students, but his class is not well attended. Like, no one goes to his class, and the people who go to his class are bored out of their minds because the way he teaches is boring. You know what I'm saying? We've all had those teachers that are just boring, So this is this character. And I kind of would like to say maybe he's a little neurotic too, to a fault at times, because we have introduction to him from I think his daughter's like, I had a dream about you again, and we see the dreams and stuff. We see him in a lot of dreams, right, from different characters in the movie. And the daughter's like, I had a dream about you, and he was kind of like, oh really? Like, he's happy, like his family's having dreams about him, right? But she goes, but you didn't do anything. Like, you didn't save me. You did nothing. You just stood there. And it kind of defeats him, where he's like, like, he doesn't feel like he was the hero in his daughter's dreams. And he's like off put by it. You know what I'm saying? Where he's just like, that's weird. Like, why am I not a hero in your dreams? It's funny. Because he kind of feels beaten up about it. It's really funny. And she's just like, yeah, you just stood there and you looked at me. And then they don't do anything about it. They're just like, oh, it's just a dream. However, there's more character development here too, because his wife Janet is like, she's like more of a go-getter. I think she's probably more of a people person too. Like, people like her. And like, I would like to probably say, like, she might feel like, her career is behind because of Paul and his mannerisms. Like, people don't like him, so she doesn't get to go further along in her career. And honestly, I forget what her career is, because they don't really go into it too much, but she does something. I thought she worked for a magazine, but I think maybe she works for an architecture firm or something like that. But I'm not 100% too sure. Or maybe it's an event firm or something like that, but it's not too clear what she does for a living. But it does feel like she's not ahead in her career because I think of Paul. And it's not really said, but you kind of feel it, because I think no one likes Paul. Like, even her coworkers don't like Paul. You know what I'm saying? So Paul kind of has this area effect across the family that he's unaware of. So she talks to him because he has to go have an interview or a meeting with one of his colleagues. And he's very, he wants to ask her if he can write the foreword in her book, and he doesn't know if he's going to do it, and his wife's like, well, record it for me so we could talk about it later, and like she wants to help him, like push him and like motivate him, and she's there for him. She's a loving wife, and she just wants nothing but the best for him, and she's like the motivating factor, like, hey, just ask, go do it, and like that's her whole like part of her thing with him, and she's a good character in this movie. Actually, she really does ground him, and you find that like there's a genuine love here, which gets played with later on in the film, and it kind of makes you go, this is interesting. There's interesting stories going on in here. So he goes to the meeting and he meets with this woman, and I forget her name. I didn't write it down. And he asks her. He records the interview, like he does record it. And he wanted to do the forward for her book, and it's in the same field as his too. And he had like this like same field about ants and stuff like that. And it's a really awkward conversation. And he records it, and he fumbles, and he gets mad with her too. Like I would say he has a little bit of a short temper sometimes. He's such an interesting layered character, this guy. He's a lot of everything. It's Nicolas Cage. It's a lot of everything, right? But it's really tempered. Like it's with intention. And so he loses his shit, and then he listens to the recording, and we get to listen to the recording too. And it's funny. Like it's actually a funny scene. And he deletes it. And then he approaches his wife later, and she's like, "How was the meeting?" And he's like, "Oh, it went good. We didn't talk about that, but we know." And like he's trying to play it off like, it's okay, girl. You know what I'm saying? And I forget where they were, but they're out in I think it's a gala event or a movie event. It doesn't matter. They're on the way out, and he bumps into Claire, played by, I believe it's Marnie McPhail. And my handwriting here is horrible. I should have wrote that down a lot better. Yeah. So they bump into her, and she's like, "Hey, long time no see, Paul. I've had a dream about you." And his wife's there too. Like Janet is there, and she's talking just to Paul, really, and he awkwardly introduces her and stuff like that, and she's like, "Hey, I had a dream about you," and like his demeanor changes a little bit, like he gets like, "Oh, like really, you had a dream about me?" And it's a funny sequence, and she is like, "Yeah, you were just in my dream, but you didn't do anything, and she's like, he kind of like, they don't have a big discussion there, but she's like, "Hey, we should catch up sometime and talk about my dream." And Paul's kind of like, "Yeah, okay, well, here's my number, blah, blah." And his wife's like, "What the hell are you doing?" He's like, what? He just plays it off like, what? She wants to talk about my dreams and stuff. And he's so aloof sometimes. It's so weird. It's funny, though. And so we go to the meeting between him and Claire. And Claire's like, yeah, like they're talking about the dream, and he says something like, "Oh yeah, I was in my daughter's dream," or something like that. And she's like, "Well, I write a blog, and I would like to write about my experience with you in my dream." And he thinks nothing of it. He's just like, "Yeah, go ahead, like who'd want to read that, And so she writes it, and the next night it's released, and he gets like inundated with nothing but like tweets. Like his phone's blowing up, you know what I'm saying? People are calling, he's getting all these tweets in, and like he goes to his computer and he sits there and he's looking at everything, and he sees the blog was put out there, and it's getting all these hits, and everyone's talking about him and saying like, "Hey, he's been in my dreams too." And it's a surge in his ego, so to speak, and he doesn't know what to do, right? And his family doesn't know what to do and stuff. So he's just like, "This is weird. Everyone's dreaming about me." So he goes to work, right? And the students all of a sudden start showing up to his class. Like his class is full of kids, and he's just trying to teach his normal thing. But someone was like, "Hey, you were in my dream last night." And then so he stopped his class, and he's like, "Well, who else was I in their dreams?" And like everyone puts their hands up and stuff. And so then he's like, "Well, let's explore it." So then they go through like a lot of students' dreams, and that's where you get kind of the horror aspect elements, is with all these dream sequences, and they're all hilarious. Like the movie is funny, okay? So he starts to gain this notoriety and fame, so to speak, and now and he doesn't really know what to do with it. but he gets contacted by Michael Cera's character named Trent, and he runs this like PR company, I would say, called Thoughts. And so he goes to meet with them, and he meets the assistant Molly, played by, I believe it's Dylan. I gotta write these better. You know what? I might actually start printing these out so I don't have to read my own handwriting. But anyways, so he meets her, and she is like smitten with him, like in love in a sense. But it's like we find out, okay? So the interview process at Thoughts is a really funny sequence because he wants to use his fame to promote a book that he hasn't written yet. Like he wants to write a book. He wants to compete with his fellow, I wouldn't say co-worker, but one of his peers. He wants to also release a book. You know what? He wants to be a noted author like his peers. And they want nothing to do with that at Thoughts, right? They're like, hey, we have a deal with Sprite. And they're thinking like maybe you'll hold Sprite in people's dreams and stuff. It's such a weird sequence. It's so funny though. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to do my book. And so they kind of work a way out that they will do this book. And he eventually does the Sprite stuff too. I can't remember if we get a Sprite commercial with him or not. I don't think we do, but I think he comes around to terms where he's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. But I forget why. There is a reason though. However. So he goes out because he's in town, right? He goes to Thought, wherever they are. I think they're in Boston or something like that. And so he has to spend the night there. And Molly's like, hey, if you ever want to hang out, you know, we can do that. And it's just him, right? His wife and kids aren't around or anything like that. So he actually goes out with Molly on a night on the town. And then she brings him back to his house. And it's so awkward, right? The whole sequence is awkward. And this is the best part of the movie, personally. I love this scene so much. So they go back to her house, right? And she tells him about the dream. Like, she goes, this is what I dreamt about you. And it's super dirty and super erotic. And, like, we have sex or something like that. And he's, like, so, like, taken aback and flustered. But he goes to her house anyways, right? And they work out a deal of she wants to reenact her dream in real life. And so they do. And I have to tell you, guys, I laughed a lot during this film. But that sequence, I laughed so hard because it's so awkward and hilarious. And like, me and my friend called it the fart nut because it was freaking hilarious. So she goes to take off his pants because she's going to, you know, do some pleasuring. And he farts, right? Out of nervousness. Just a big rips out a fart. I start laughing. So then they kiss, I think, and she tries to undo his pants again. And when she does, he busts a nut. Like instantly. And then as soon as he does that, he farts right after nervously. And I couldn't stop laughing. It was so good. So good. And he just gets up and awkwardly leaves. He's like, yep, that's it, we're done. And he leaves, right? And like, they kissed and stuff. And so he leaves. And it's just an awkward scene. It's so good. Guys, I couldn't stop laughing so hard. So after that, this is where the movie turns, right? Because this weird scene happens, and he doesn't share it with his wife or anything like that. And now the dreams, because this is where we got to explore there's a lot of themes and elements in this movie that you could take away your own concept of, like, what is this movie all about? There's a lot of things that you could relate this to in the real world. And the thing that I was thinking here is, so at that point in time, the next day, his dreams start, everyone who dreams about him or has a dream with him, their dreams start to become nightmares. And like, it's all, like, and I was sitting there going, okay, this is interesting because now he feels guilt. The dreams beforehand, when he was aloof and kind of like, you know, not carefree, but his life was good, you know, no problems, you know what I'm saying? Like, he has a loving wife. They are a loving couple, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is a scene in here where before they go to bed together. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are a well-established family. His life is good, you know? So the dreams are him doing nothing. He's just there, passive. But now he's the nightmare in the dreams after what he does with Molly, right? So everything changes, which to me, I'm like, oh, his karma's changed now. He's not a good person anymore. So now this is a reflection. His spirit is now tainted, you know what I'm saying? Because he hasn't dealt with the relation now that he did with her, with his wife. He hasn't told her yet, and he never tells her. And the dreams get worse and worse and worse for everyone. And at this point in the movie, I'm like, yep, his guilt is getting to him. And everything is unraveling. And now the students and the world is turning on him because he's their nightmare now. And he doesn't know how to fix it. You know what I'm saying? And what I was thinking was the only way he could fix this is if he actually reconciles with his wife and tells him the guilt that he has and release that guilt. But we don't go down that avenue at all. And that's where I thought this movie was going to go, where it's like good dreams, bad dreams, I'll fix them, and then no dreams, right? Like consequences to my actions, and this is what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I was expecting. We didn't get that. It gets crazier, honestly. And like, yeah, like his life, it doesn't get good. Ever. So there's a scene, I can't remember when it happens, but after he goes through, like, the students are calling him losers. No one wants him around. He goes to a dinner date with this, I can't remember the couple's name, but his wife had a nightmare about him, and she can't stand him, right? Because I think he kills her in her dream, and she can't stand him, can't be around him. Like, it's a really cool scene, actually. It's a really good scene. So he tries to do an apology, but because he had a nightmare about himself killing himself in his dream. You know what I'm saying? And so he's like, I have to put an apology out there, and it's a very heartfelt, like, it's bullshit, you know what I'm saying? And he's like, it's such an unapologetic apology, and it's funny, and the world hates him even more for it, and now his family hates him because their life is getting torn upside down as well because of this. Like, the daughters, their friends all hate them. The wife's work is like demoting her because they don't like him. It's such an interesting domino effect, all because of what he did with Molly. And we don't ever address it, but I feel like that's what it was. Like the guilt messed up all the dreams. So then we have this sequence, and it's abrupt. It just bang. It's all about this new dream technology. So it's called like dream travel, and it's this bracelet that you wear, and it's a really good scene. It's like a good 10 minutes of like these dream influencers, and they're talking about, like, you know, popping in and out of people's dreams and like showing them ads and stuff like that. And it's like this new tech, and it's like it was born from Paul's life or Paul's dreams. Like they don't go into too much detail of how they came about doing this, but Paul is able to naturally do this. Like, it's his superpower, so to speak. And this dream technology tapped into that, and now anyone could do it as long as you wear this bracelet. And so it's a great sequence, and I thought that's where the movie was going to end, where it's like, because they introduced this thing so weird, this weird concept, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, the movie can end here. I'm totally cool with it. And it doesn't. It continues on a little bit longer, but I would have been happy if they ended right there with the dream technology and be like, that's the end of the movie. But it goes on a little bit longer than it needed to. Personally, I think that's what I think. So the movie goes on, and we find out that Paul and Janet are separated, you know, and Paul goes on, he's doing a book tour, that he finally does his book tour, and the original title for his book was going to be Dream Scenario, but they changed it on him and called it I Am Your Nightmare. And it was just funny. There's a lot of Freddy Krueger imagery in this movie as well. And it kind of, like, you kind of sit there and be like, is this a weird origin story to Freddy Krueger? Like, this does Paul Matthews become Freddy Krueger? It's so silly. I loved it. It's so silly. But his book tour doesn't do well. No one, like, his life sucks. You know what I'm saying? And the end comes when he goes to sleep. He puts on the bracelet. and he finally buys the bracelet and puts on the dream bracelet, and like he has this moment, like you have the influencers infiltrating his dream, which is hilarious, and then he has the final dream of him saving his wife, because earlier in the movie, she was like, "Oh, you are not in my dreams." And he's like, "Yeah, well, what would you want me to be doing in your dreams? Would you want me to be saving you?" And she's like, "Yeah, and I'd want you to be wearing the David Byrne suit from I can't remember the movie. I saw the movie. What was that movie called? Where he wears the big overstuffed suits." And she's like, "I would like you saving me in a suit like that." He's like, "Oh yeah, really?" And then later at the end of the movie, that's what he does. He saves her from fire. And he's wearing the big suit, and he kisses her, and he floats off into the sky because it's a dream. And he's like, I forget the final words, but it's really touching. Where he's like, I think he says something. He's like, "I know that this is just a dream," and then it ends, and it's a nice ending. Like the ending is nice. I do like it. I don't hate the ending, but I like the awkward ending of ending at the dream technology influencer stuff. I love the ending there, but I do like the actual ending that they do give us. They're both great, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's the end of the movie. And I think it's a great film. I loved every minute of this movie. It's so good. I do highly recommend you give it a chance. If you see it out there for digital, I will definitely be buying it. Day one purchase. It's going in the collection. As soon as I can find it, I'm getting it. Yeah, but that's all I have to say about this movie. Like I said, I loved it. Yeah, that's it. I have nothing else to say about this movie. It's such a good film. Anyways, the next movie I'm going to be talking about will be The Boy and the Heron. So here's what we got lined up. The Boy and the Heron, Godzilla -1, Wonka, and I'm going to go see Poor Things tonight. And then it'll be Aquaman and Iron Claw. Those are like that's the next crop of reviews that are coming. I have a very busy week ahead of me. And also, it's going to be Christmas and New Year's. So if I don't release a video before Christmas, Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. And yeah, that's it for me, guys. Have a good one. Whatever movie you're watching, I hope you're loving it and digging it. I'll see you when I see you. Peace out. Bye.